Welcome to my channel BBC Rare Coins. Ever wondered about the story behind this small but mighty coin? United States money the Jefferson Nickel, more than just 5 cents. It's a piece of American history carried in your pocket. Let's start it. Top 1. In 1980, the United States Mint produced millions of Jefferson Nickels, everyday coins meant for commerce, vending machines, and pockets across the country. Most were ordinary, identical in weight, size, and appearance. But hidden among them, one coin stood out. One nickel from that very same year would go on to become one of the most valuable and shocking discoveries in modern U.S. coin collecting history. Not because it was made of gold or silver, not because it was centuries old, but because it was an accident. A one-in-a-million mistake that turned a 5-cent coin into a $68,000 treasure. The Jefferson Nickel has been a staple of American currency since 1938. Featuring the third U.S. president, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse and his iconic Monticello home on the reverse, the coin saw few major design changes over the decades. But what makes some nickels rise above the rest isn't the design, it's the flaw. Mint errors are rare, especially in modern coins. But when they do happen, they become legends. The 1980 Jefferson nickel that shocked the coin world was struck on the wrong planchet, a blank mint for a completely different coin. Instead of the standard copper-nickel planchet used for U.S. nickels, this coin was struck on a foreign planchet, a blank mint for another country's currency, possibly from a smaller denomination, lighter metal, or thinner cut. The result? A nickel that didn't quite look right, didn't weigh right, and didn't feel like the others. Collectors call this a wrong planchet error, and it's one of the rarest kinds of minting mistakes. It requires multiple levels of quality control failure at the U.S. Mint for a coin like this to even be released. Planchets are supposed to be inspected, dies are monitored, strikes are reviewed, and yet, somehow, this foreign planchet made it through the process and was struck with Jefferson's image in Monticello, turning a mistake into a historic artifact. What made this particular 1980 nickel so valuable wasn't just the error. It was the condition. The coin was preserved in almost pristine shape, showing barely any signs of circulation. Its strike was sharp, the luster intact, and the details crisp. When it was discovered by a collector who immediately recognized the unusual weight and thickness, it was sent for professional grading. The experts confirmed the incredible. This was a genuine U.S. Mint error, a Jefferson nickel struck on a foreign planchet, a one-of-a-kind coin. The coin entered the auction world like a bolt of lightning. It was graded and authenticated by one of the top coin grading services, certified as a unique mint error with near-perfect preservation. Collectors from around the globe took notice. Bidding wars erupted. Everyone wanted a piece of this anomaly. This wasn't just a rare coin, it was history. And when the final hammer dropped, the price was set, $68,000. For a 5-cent piece, that kind of value isn't common. It's the result of rarity, condition, provenance, and collector demand all aligning perfectly. Most people will never see such a coin in their lifetime. But that's what makes this story so fascinating, because this coin started in the same place every nickel does, in someone's pocket, in someone's change jar, completely unnoticed. It raises a powerful question. How many other valuable coins are still out there, sitting in drawers, jars, and forgotten boxes? How many people have unknowingly spent a small fortune on snacks, parking meters, or gas station coffee, all because they didn't look closely enough? The 1980 Jefferson nickel that sold for $68,000 is more than just a coin. It's a wake-up call to collectors, hobbyists, and everyday people. Errors like this are rare, but they happen. And when they do, they turn 5 cents into a fortune. So what should you look for? Start with weight. This nickel weighed less than normal. Then look at thickness. It was slightly thinner than standard. Finally, inspect the edges. Many foreign planchets don't have the same reading or finish. If anything seems off, if the strike looks strange, or the surface is unusually smooth or shiny, it might be more than just pocket change. The world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and sometimes, it's the coins you ignore that are worth the most. The most expensive Jefferson nickel in history was never meant to exist, and that's exactly why it became a legend. There could be another one out there, maybe even in your pocket right now. Top 2. In 1981, millions of Jefferson nickels were minted and circulated throughout the United States. To most people, these coins were nothing more than everyday currency tossed into pockets, change jars, or spent without a second thought. But hidden among the countless ordinary nickels struck that year, there was one, just one, that would go on to become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern numismatic history. A Jefferson nickel from 1981 that defied expectations, baffled experts, and ultimately sold for an unbelievable $66,000. Not for its age, not for its metal, but because of an incredibly rare and almost unthinkable mint error. The Jefferson nickel has been a part of American coinage since 1938, featuring the third U.S. president, Thomas Jefferson, and his Virginia estate, Monticello. By 1981, the design had remained virtually unchanged, and the mint was producing them in the hundreds of millions. But in the chaos of production, where thousands of coins are struck every hour, mistakes can happen. Most errors are minor, off-center strikes, die cracks, slight misalignments. But once in a great while, a mistake occurs that is so rare, so dramatic, and so undeniable that it transforms a 5-cent coin into a legendary collectible. That's exactly what happened with this particular 1981 Jefferson nickel. It was discovered not in a museum or a safe deposit box, but by a sharp-eyed collector who noticed something strange. The color looked different. The size felt wrong. And when the coin was weighed, the numbers didn't match up. That's when the truth was revealed. This nickel wasn't struck on the normal copper-nickel planchet used for U.S. nickels. It had been struck on a foreign coin planchet, a blank mint for a completely different coin, likely from another country. The result? A Jefferson nickel that looked off from the very beginning. It was slightly smaller. It was lighter. It had a different ring when dropped on a hard surface. But most importantly, it was a genuine U.S. mint error, something that isn't just rare, it's nearly impossible to replicate. These kinds of minting mistakes, known as wrong planchet errors, are incredibly difficult to detect during the production process. The foreign blank somehow made its way into the mint system and was struck by the nickel dies, creating a coin that technically shouldn't exist. When this coin was authenticated by grading experts, they confirmed what the collector suspected. This was a unique specimen. It was graded in high condition, showing excellent preservation, no major signs of circulation, and a fully detailed strike despite being struck on the wrong material. The error was dramatic, obvious, and impossible to deny, the kind of coin that instantly turns heads in the numismatic community. When it went to auction, the buzz was immediate. Collectors knew what they were looking at, a one-of-a-kind coin, a modern miracle in American coinage. Bidding started high and climbed even higher. And when the final hammer dropped, the price was sealed, $66,000. $66,000 for a coin that originally cost 5 cents. That's the power of rarity. That's the impact of a true minting anomaly. What's even more unbelievable is the fact that coins like this could still be out there. Most people never look at their pocket change closely. Most nickels go unnoticed. But once in a while, a coin slips through, a mint error that bypassed every level of quality control. It ends up in circulation, in a coin roll, in a drawer, or even in your hand, disguised as ordinary money but worth a small fortune. This 1981 Jefferson nickel is a perfect reminder of what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's not always about the oldest coin or the one made of precious metals. Sometimes, it's the mistakes, the missteps of the mint, that become the most sought-after treasures. So what should you be looking for? Start with weight. If a nickel feels light or heavy, it could be struck on the wrong planchet. Examine the diameter. If it seems too small or the rim is too thin, it could be a sign. Check the strike. If the design seems slightly off-center or weak in certain areas, that's another clue. And most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels off, it might be. The most valuable Jefferson nickel from 1981 didn't come from a special collection. It wasn't saved in pristine rolls. It wasn't a proof. It was a mistake. A perfectly flawed, accidental masterpiece of the mint that turned into one of the most expensive nickels in U.S. history. It proves that treasure is still out there. Not buried in the ground. Not locked in vaults. But maybe sitting in your change jar, waiting to be found. That's the magic of numismatics. One coin. One error. One discovery that turns 5 cents into $66,000. Top 3. In the world of coin collecting, most people overlook the Jefferson nickel. It's a simple 5-cent coin that's been part of everyday American life since 1938. Millions are minted every year, used for groceries, gas, vending machines, and forgotten in junk drawers across the country. But in 1983, something happened at the U.S. Mint that no one expected. A mistake so rare, so mysterious, that it turned an ordinary 1983 Jefferson nickel into a coin worth an astonishing $62,000. Not because it was made of gold, not because it was old, but because it was never supposed to exist. The 1983 Jefferson Nickel wasn't a proof coin or part of a special collector's set. It was meant for circulation, a common coin for common use. But one of those nickels, just one, was different. A true mint error, born from a rare set of circumstances that could only happen by accident. It wasn't caught by the machines. It wasn't pulled during inspection. It left the mint unnoticed and entered circulation, blending in with the rest of the spare change across the nation. This rare 1983 nickel was struck on the wrong planchet, a blank that wasn't meant for a Jefferson nickel at all. Planchets are the metal discs used to create coins. Each denomination and country has specific metal compositions and dimensions. But during minting, foreign blanks sometimes get mixed into the presses, especially when multiple coin types are being produced. In this case, a foreign planchet slipped into the press designed for U.S. nickels. The coin was struck with the Jefferson design, but everything else was wrong: the weight, the thickness, even the color. It went undetected, unnoticed by the mint, and circulated like any other nickel. For years, it could have sat in a pocket, a cash register, or a coin jar, until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. The details on the coin looked soft. The edges seemed thinner. And when weighed, it didn't match a standard Jefferson nickel. That was the first clue. The collector submitted it for grading, and the results were shocking. It was a genuine mint error, struck on a foreign planchet, with characteristics so rare that experts could only find one like it. It was authenticated, encapsulated, and classified as one of the most dramatic wrong planchet errors ever seen on a Jefferson nickel from the 1980s. When this coin hit the auction circuit, the buzz was instant. Collectors knew exactly what it was: a one-of-a-kind mistake, perfectly preserved, and carrying the weight of minting history behind it. Bidding was fierce. Every collector wanted it, not just for its rarity, but for the story it told. And when the gavel finally dropped, the price reached an incredible $62,000, $62,000 for a nickel minted in 1983. A coin that was never supposed to exist. A coin that could have been spent on candy or soda but instead became a legendary find. What makes it even more exciting is the possibility that more are still out there. Most people never check their change. They don't weigh their coins. They don't look closely at the details. But these rare errors, these hidden treasures, sometimes slip through the cracks. And for the person who finds one, it can mean life-changing money. This 1983 Jefferson nickel reminds us why coin collecting is so much more than a hobby. It's about paying attention. It's about spotting the rare among the ordinary. It's about recognizing history when it's sitting right in the palm of your hand. So what should you look for? Start with weight. A standard nickel weighs exactly 5.00 grams. If yours comes in significantly lighter or heavier, that's a red flag. Check the rim. If it looks thinner or more uneven than usual, that's another clue. Look at the strike. If the image is weak, blurred, or off-center, it could be a sign that the wrong metal was used. And if something just doesn't feel right about the coin, don't ignore it, because one day you might be holding another $62,000 nickel. Not because it's shiny, not because it's old, but because it's flawed, because it's unique, because it tells a story that no other coin can. The most valuable Jefferson nickel from 1983 isn't in a museum or a government archive. It was once in someone's pocket. Maybe it passed through a cashier's hand. Maybe it was dropped on the floor, picked up, and never noticed again, until one collector saw the truth. That's the thrill of the hunt. That's the magic of numismatics. And that's how a simple 5-cent coin from 1983 became one of the most expensive and talked about nickels in U.S. history. Check your change. You never know what you might find. Top 4. In 1991, the United States Mint produced millions of Jefferson nickels, simple, everyday coins worth just 5 cents. To most people, they were completely ordinary. Tossed into pockets, lost in couch cushions, handed over at gas stations and drive-thrus without a second thought. But buried among the millions of standard nickels from that year, there was one coin, just one, that would become a legend in modern American numismatics. A 1991 Jefferson nickel that shocked collectors when it sold for an unbelievable $58,000. Not because it was gold, not because it was ancient, but because of a rare, stunning mint error that slipped past every level of quality control and found its way into the wild. The Jefferson nickel, introduced in 1938, is one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coin history. It features the profile of President Thomas Jefferson on the front and his famous Virginia home, Monticello, on the back. By 1991, the design was familiar, almost invisible to the public eye, just another coin in the change pile. But one particular Jefferson nickel struck that year defied all expectations. It looked different, it weighed different, and it turned out to be one of the most dramatic mint errors of the decade. This 1991 Jefferson nickel wasn't struck on the usual copper-nickel planchet. Instead, it was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, a blank intended for a completely different denomination. That means it was smaller, lighter, and slightly off-center, with parts of the design missing due to the size difference. The word Monticello was partially cut off. The rim looked strange. The coin didn't feel right in the hand, and that's what caught a sharp-eyed collector's attention. Most people would have overlooked it. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like a worn-down or damaged nickel. But someone saw past that and sent the coin in for professional grading and authentication. When experts analyzed it, the results were crystal clear. This was a Jefferson nickel struck on a dime blank, a mint error so rare it had only been documented a few times in U.S. coin history, and never in such perfect condition from 1991. Graded as a high-end mint error, the coin sparked massive interest in the collecting world. These types of mistakes are considered valuable not only for their rarity, but for what they reveal about the minting process. A coin like this represents a breakdown in quality control, a fleeting moment where two completely different production lines overlapped, and somehow, the coin made it out into public circulation. When the coin went to auction, it caught fire. The bidding was aggressive. Collectors from all over the country wanted a piece of this mistake, knowing how rare and historically significant it was. And when the final bid was cast, the price was sealed, $58,000. For a 5-cent coin from 1991, that's the power of a mint error. That's what turns everyday change into a piece of history. And what's even more exciting, it could happen again. There may be other error coins from 1991 or from any other year, still out there, unnoticed, sitting in change jars, cash registers, or old coin rolls in basements and attics. Most people never think to look closely, but these errors are real. They're out there. And sometimes, they're worth tens of thousands of dollars. How can you spot one? Start by weighing your nickels. A standard Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5 grams. If you find one that's significantly lighter, around 2.3 grams, it could be struck on a dime planchet. Next, look at the size. A dime is smaller in diameter than a nickel, so a wrong planchet strike will often have parts of the design missing or cut off. Finally, examine the edge and the overall finish. If it looks off or feels thinner than normal, it might be something special. This 1991 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of why coin collecting remains one of the most thrilling hobbies in the world. It's not just about old coins. It's about the stories they tell, the accidents that become legends, the rare missteps that turn into treasures, and the possibility that at any moment, in the most unlikely place, you could find something worth far more than anyone ever imagined. The most expensive Jefferson nickel from 1991 didn't come from a collector's set. It wasn't a proof. It wasn't made of precious metal. It was a mistake. A beautiful, rare, one-of-a-kind error that transformed a 5-cent coin into a $58,000 masterpiece. Keep your eyes open. Check your change. Because next time you're holding a nickel, it might not be worth just 5 cents. It might be your ticket to numismatic history. Top 5. To the average person, these coins were just part of daily life, 5 cents to toss into a tip jar, use at a vending machine, or forget at the bottom of a pocket. But among all the coins minted that year, one stood out in a way that no one could have predicted. A single Jefferson nickel from 1997 would eventually stun the coin collecting world by selling for an incredible $53,000. Not because it was made of precious metal, not because it was old or rare by mintage, but because it featured a rare, once-in-a-generation mint error that made it one of the most valuable 5-cent coins in American history. At first glance, it looked like any other Jefferson nickel. The familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson faced left on the obverse. Monticello, his iconic Virginia home, rested on the reverse. The date, 1997, sat clearly beneath Jefferson's image. But this coin wasn't ordinary. This was a minting mistake so dramatic that even seasoned collectors paused in disbelief. What turned this coin from common to priceless was the fact that it was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, a rare and almost untraceable error that resulted in a totally unique Jefferson nickel. This wrong planchet error meant that instead of being struck on the standard copper nickel blank used for U.S. nickels, This coin was struck on a completely different blank, thinner, lighter, and of a different alloy. The coin was slightly underweight, and the strike appeared slightly off. Part of the design looked compressed. The rim was faint in areas. But despite these subtle differences, it still had enough detail to confirm it was a Jefferson nickel. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like a damaged or worn coin. But to a skilled collector, it was a red flag and potentially a gold mine. The coin was sent to a professional grading service. What came back was the confirmation of a true rarity. The coin was graded as a major mint error, a genuine Jefferson nickel struck on an incorrect foreign planchet, fully certified and in excellent condition. That certification turned curiosity into fire. The word spread fast through coin forums, auction houses, and collector groups. A 1997 nickel with an error this rare was unheard of. Then came the auction. It drew eyes from around the country, even the world. Collectors knew what they were bidding on, a once-in-a-lifetime coin that had survived the odds, escaped detection, and represented the perfect storm of U.S. mint history. The bidding was intense. And when the final bid was accepted, the coin officially became a legend, $53,000 for a nickel that was never meant to be. This coin is more than just money. It tells a story. A story about how even in a system designed for perfection, mistakes can happen. And when they do, they become valuable. It's the flaw that makes the coin priceless. What's most fascinating is that these errors don't come from some secret vault or collector's stash. They come from circulation, from change, from everyday life. That means there could be more out there, undiscovered, unnoticed, sitting in a drawer or roll of coins. One of them might even be in your hands right now. So, what should you look for if you want to find a coin like this? Start with the weight. A standard U.S. nickel weighs exactly 5.00 grams. This 1997 mint error was significantly lighter. If your nickel feels off, weigh it. Next, check the diameter and rim. A wrong planchet strike will often have a weak rim or a slightly off-center design. Finally, trust your instincts. If a coin doesn't look or feel quite right, it might be more than just worn, it might be a treasure. The 1997 Jefferson nickel that sold for $53,000 didn't start out special. It started like any other coin, part of a batch, part of a roll, part of someone's spare change. But a mistake at the mint made it unique. And a collector with a keen eye turned it into history. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's the thrill of the unknown. The chance that something ordinary might be extraordinary. That 5 cents might actually be worth 5 figures if you know what to look for. So check your change. Look closely at your nickels. Because somewhere out there, another rare error is waiting to be discovered. And maybe, just maybe, the next $53,000 Jefferson nickel is already in your pocket.